afternoon, church family and friends. I look forward to this time to be able to come out and share what God's given me today, and sometimes God gives me multiple things and I have to choose what is best to bring to you. And I feel like I'm yelling, but man, it is windy today. The humidity yesterday was just oppressive, but today the humidity is gone, but man, the wind has picked up just so very much, and these oak trees are making a ton of noise up here with the wind, and so I sure hope that you can hear me well, but it's either have the wind noise or go inside, so I sure hope that the wind is not bothering you too much. Listen, pray for this upcoming weekend and the decisions that will be made, and we want to honor God, of course, and do the best that we can to do to make sure that we abide by His will and His way and all those things. And today we're going to be in the book of Ruth, and I sure hope you're doing well today. I want to encourage you today to take some time out of your day and read the book of Ruth. It's right after Judges. It's before 1 Samuel. It consists of 4 chapters. It's really not all that long. It is the time frame is taking place during the book of Judges. So it's before Israel had a king. It is after the conquest of the Promised Land, after the death of Joshua, during the time of the Judges. And then now here we have the story of Ruth. And please don't misunderstand me. When I say story, I don't by any stretch of imagination mean to indicate that it's fiction. It's not fiction. It's a real and true story. And so I was reading this today, and I wanted to bless you with something that, I saw a lot of things, and there's a lot of things that can be found in these first couple of verses. But one thing particular stood out to me. Now it came to pass, in verse number 1 of chapter 1, it says, "Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled, that there was a famine in the land. And a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. And the name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi, and the name of his 2 sons Mahlon and Chilion, Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judah. And they came to the country of Moab and continued there. And in Elimelech, Naomi's husband died, and she was left, and her 2 sons. And they took them wives of the women of Moab, the name of the one Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth, and they dwelled there about 10 years. And Mahlon and Chilion died, and both of them, and the women was left of her 2 sons and her husband." Just a little bit of a brief account. 1, they should have never been in Moab. As far as we know, God never told them to go, and they did where they were told to live in the Promised Land. So it's outside of God speaking, all we know is that they shouldn't have been in Moab. 2, these 2 boys were commanded by God not to, I say boys, grown men at this point, were commanded by God not to marry outside of the Israel nation. So we have some things that are going downhill at the beginning of this chapter. But nevertheless, God works with what we have, and we don't get to go back in time and fix our mistakes. Although I am probably in good company this morning, I wish I could, and I'm sure you wish you could as well. But we don't get to go back in time and fix our mistakes, but we serve God where we're at. And so in verse number verse number 6, "Then she arose," of course Naomi, "she arose with her 2 daughters-in-law, and that she might return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab how that the Lord had visited his people in giving them bread. Wherefore she went forth out of the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her, and they went on the way to return unto the land of Judah. And Naomi said unto her 2 daughters-in-law, Go, return each to her mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you, as ye have dealt with the dead, and with me. The Lord grant you that ye may find rest each of you in the house of her husband. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voice and wept. And they said unto her, Surely we will return with thee unto thy people." So here's her 2 daughter-in-laws. They both say, hey, we'll go back with you to your people. And times have gotten really bad for them. They have lost their husbands. They are living in a land that is, Naomi's living in a foreign land. These 2 daughter-in-laws, you have to understand culture. Listen, to be a widow was to be a very vulnerable person in society. In the days in which we are reading about, It was a very bad thing to be a widow, quite frankly. And so she goes on and she says, why don't you go home to your father's house where you'll find protection, where you'll find food, where you'll find maybe the possibility of remarrying. And it says, and Naomi said, turn again, my daughters. And so they decide, let's see, verse number, I'm looking for the verse I'm looking for. Verse number 14. And they lifted up their voice and wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clave unto her. And she said, behold, thy sister-in-law is gone back unto her people, and unto her gods. Return thou after thy sister-in-law. And Ruth said, entreat me not to leave thee, or to return from following after thee. For whither thou goest, I will go, and whither thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy God, my God. You'll find here that she was determined. Look at verse number 18. And when she saw that she was steadfastly minded to go with her, then she left speaking unto her. What an amazing thing here. So Ruth and her Orpah were given the opportunity and urged to turn back to Moab and to their father's house, a place that Naomi was urging them to abandon God, to go back to a place where false gods were worshipped, to go back to a heathen lifestyle where there was no serving God. There was a lot of that. And when times were very hard, you'll find here two pictures of two different women, and I say women, but it could be anybody. When times get hard, you have here the option of turning back and taking the easy road, and finding where you are provided for, and everything goes back to normal, and you kind of reset, and or you find Ruth who says, no, I'll choose the hard road, because the hard road is serving God. And she was steadfastly minded to do that. Let me ask you this. When times get hard, will you be like Orpah, who started off, by the way, she started off on the journey to go back to Israel and to serve God and to do those things. But as soon as she had an excuse to leave and make life easy, she took it. But Ruth said, I will stick around in the hard times to serve God. And I will go forward with you, Naomi, and your God will be my God, and I'll serve him no matter what happens. What an amazing testimony. By the way, Ruth is King David's great-grandmother, if I'm not mistaken. What an amazing story. She ends up remarrying, of course, in the book of Ruth, and to Boaz, and Boaz is the grandfather to King David, the man after God's own heart, which, by the way, is in the line of Jesus Christ. If you go into the New Testament, you can find two genealogies there. There are two women mentioned in those genealogies, and I encourage you to go find which two Gentile women are listed in those genealogies. I encourage you to go find which one they are. I gave you one, Ruth. Let me know in the comments who you think the other one is, and maybe I'll let you know tomorrow. I'm sure that y'all can figure it out, though. But I hope that was an encouragement to you. Remember, when times are hard, don't go back to the world and what it has to offer. Stick it out. God will bless you. And in the end, you'll see blessings beyond what the world could ever give you. Read the book of Ruth today and see how God takes care of us when we choose him over the easy road. It's great to have spent this time with you, and I hope that you are doing well. We're praying for you and hope to get to see you soon.